We live in extraordinary times, full of possibilities that our ancestors could not even imagine. With a simple tap on your smartphone screen, you can order food from dozens of different restaurants and have it delivered to your door in minutes. Want entertainment? Streaming services offer thousands of movies, series, documentaries, and shows instantly available. Do we desire knowledge? We have access to virtually all the information accumulated by humanity with just a few clicks. Do we want to connect? We can talk to people on the other side of the world in real time, share our lives on social media, and stay in touch with hundreds or even thousands of virtual friends. This is the age of abundance, of speed, of maximum efficiency. Time is money, as they say, and every second wasted modern society has taught us to value productivity above all else, to fit as many experiences as possible into our busy schedules, to always be busy, always connected, always on the move. After all, the more we do, the more we live, right? The faster, the better. But before we continue, let me ask you a few questions. When was the last time you truly enjoyed a meal? Without looking at your phone, without thinking about the next appointment, just present in that moment. Can you remember the last deep conversation you had with someone, where you were both completely present, not checking notifications, not rushing to move on to the next thing? How many hours a day do you spend rushing from one commitment to another, feeling like you never have enough time? When you wake up in the morning, is your first impulse to grab your phone and check your messages? And before bed, how many minutes do you spend endlessly scrolling through social media? Are you satisfied with your life, or do you always feel like you need more? More money, more experiences, more achievements, more things. If you took a vacation tomorrow, would you be able to truly relax, or would you be restless, feeling like you should be doing something productive? And the most important question of all, are you really living your life, or just speeding through it? If any of these questions touch something in you, if you felt discomfort, identification, or even a feeling of tiredness just thinking about them, then this video is for you. Because there's a question we rarely stop to ask: does this fast-paced life, full of stimuli and commitments, really make us happier? Does quantity equal quality when it comes to life experiences? And more importantly, in the rush to do everything, aren't we missing the opportunity to truly live? A growing number of people around the world are coming to a surprising conclusion. Perhaps less is more. Perhaps the key to a fuller life isn't speeding up, but slowing down. Perhaps true wealth isn't in having more, but in needing less. Perhaps authentic happiness isn't found in the next achievement, the next purchase, the next commitment, but rather in the present moment we strive so hard to move through quickly. This approach has a name: simple living or slow living. It's a philosophy of life, a counter-movement that challenges the values of modern society based on consumerism and constant productivity. And while it may seem like a recent trend, its roots run deep, connecting to millennia of philosophical wisdom from different cultures and eras. In this video, we'll explore not only what it means to live simply, but also delve into the philosophical foundations that underpin this idea. We'll examine the hidden dangers of a fast-paced life, discover what great thinkers of the past had to say about simplicity and contemplation, and finally, explore practical ways to incorporate these principles into our modern lives. Prepare to question many of your assumptions about what constitutes a good life. Prepare to slow down. The invisible dangers of speed. At first glance, the ability to do more in less time seems like an unquestionable blessing. We can work more efficiently, experience more entertainment, meet more people, visit more places. Modern life offers us an unprecedented abundance of options and opportunities. How could that be a bad thing? The problem is not speed itself, but what we lose when we make it the main value in our lives. Think about the last time you truly savored a meal. You didn't just eat because you were hungry or because it was time to eat, but you genuinely appreciated the flavors, the textures, the aromas, the full experience of eating. For many of us, these occasions are rare. More often than not, we eat in a rush, looking at our phones, thinking about the next appointment, barely noticing what we're putting in our mouths. This is just one illustration of a much broader phenomenon. When we live in constant haste, we lose the ability to fully engage with our experiences. We begin to live on the surface of things, skimming over countless experiences without truly delving deeply into any of them. Imagine you're visiting a famous museum. You only have 2 hours before your next appointment. You rush from room to room, taking quick photos of the most famous works, barely looking at them directly, already thinking about how you'll mark them as seen on your mental list. You've visited the museum, but have you truly lived the experience? Did any of the works touch your soul, provoke reflection, or expand your perception in some meaningful way? Compare that to spending an entire afternoon contemplating just a few works of art, letting them speak to you, exploring their contexts, letting them evoke memories and emotions. Which of these experiences do you believe will be more memorable? Which truly enriches your life? Speed has another dangerous side effect: constant overstimulation. Our brains weren't designed to process the absurd amount of information and stimuli we're exposed to daily. Studies show that modern humans are bombarded with more information in a single day than an 18th century person received in a lifetime. Think about that for a moment. This constant overstimulation has real and measurable consequences. It impairs our ability to concentrate, fragments our attention, and hinders deep thought. We become addicted to novelty, always seeking the next stimulus, the next notification, the next dopamine hit. Our minds become restless, unable to simply be present. And then there's the psychological and emotional cost. Anxiety and depression are at epidemic levels, especially among young people who have grown up fully immersed in this culture of speed and constant connectivity. This is no coincidence. When we are constantly rushing, constantly comparing our lives to the seemingly perfect lives others present on social media, constantly feeling like we're not doing enough, being enough, or having enough, the result is a chronic state of stress and dissatisfaction. We live in a peculiar paradox. We have more of everything, more options, more conveniences, more possibilities, yet we feel increasingly empty, anxious, and dissatisfied. We have access to more communication tools than ever before, yet we feel lonelier. We have more entertainment available, yet we feel more bored. We have more ways to save time, yet we feel increasingly pressed and time poor. Something is clearly not working. Philosopher and activist Simone Weil wrote that attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. When we live in constant haste, we lose our ability to pay attention to others, to the world around us, and even to ourselves. And when we lose this ability, we also lose our ability to experience genuine connection, profound beauty, and real meaning. The fast-paced life promises us more, but often delivers less. It promises efficiency, but leaves us exhausted. Connection, but leaves us isolated. It promises happiness, but keeps us in an endless race after something that always seems one step ahead. What fast-paced life really robs us of is something precious and irreplaceable: the present moment. And the present moment is all we really have. It is in this context that the idea of a simple life gains not only appeal, but urgency. It's not about romanticizing the past or rejecting progress. It's about recognizing that we may have lost something fundamental in the process of accelerating our lives, and that recovering it may be essential not only for our happiness, but also for our mental and spiritual health. Ancient wisdom for modern times. What philosophers teach us. The idea that a simpler, more contemplative life is superior to one of constant searching is not new. In fact, some of the most brilliant thinkers in human history reached remarkably similar conclusions, despite living in completely different times and cultures. Let's start in ancient Greece. In Epicurus' garden. Epicure and the pleasure of simplicity. Epicurus is often misunderstood. When we hear the word Epicurean, many think of someone who pursues extravagant pleasures and excessive luxuries. But this is exactly the opposite of what Epicurus taught. For Epicurus, the path to happiness was not in accumulating more pleasures, but in simplifying our desires. He distinguished between two types of pleasure: pleasure in motion and static pleasure. Pleasure in motion is what we experience when satisfying a desire, the delicious taste of a meal when we're hungry, the entertainment of a thrilling movie, the ecstasy of a sexual experience. These pleasures are intense but fleeting. They come and go quickly, leaving us searching for the next one. Static pleasure, on the other hand, is the state of contentment we experience when our desires are satisfied and we need nothing more. It's the peace of a simple life, the tranquility of having no urgent needs, the serenity of being satisfied with what we have. Epicurus argued that static pleasure is superior because it is more lasting and easier to achieve. If our desires are simple, basic food, adequate shelter, the company of good friends, we can easily satisfy them and spend most of our time in this state of tranquil contentment. He wrote, "Do not ruin what you have by wishing for what you do not have. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped to have." This is a profound observation about the nature of human satisfaction. We're always looking to the future, imagining that we'll be happy when we achieve the next goal, acquire the next thing, experience the next thing. But when we finally get what we wanted, the satisfaction is short-lived, and soon we're craving something new. It's a never-ending race. Epicurus invites us to step out of this race. He encourages us to look at what we already have with gratitude, to simplify our desires so they can be easily satisfied, and to spend our time savoring the contentment of sufficiency rather than constantly chasing more. This aligns perfectly with the philosophy of simple living. The simpler our needs and desires, the easier it is to achieve and maintain a state of contentment. And when we're not constantly chasing the next thing, we have the time and mental space to truly enjoy the present. Henry David Thoreau and the Deliberate Life. Now let's jump to the 19th century and cross the ocean to the shores of Walden Pond in Massachusetts, where we meet Henry David Thoreau. In 1845, Thoreau did something radical. He built a small cabin in the woods and lived there for 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days. His goal was not to become a permanent hermit, but to conduct an experiment in simple, deliberate living. His account of this experience, his book, Walden, became one of the most influential texts on simple living ever written. Thoreau was deeply troubled by what he saw as the frenetic and meaningless lives most people led. He observed his contemporaries rushing from one commitment to the next, working tirelessly to acquire things they didn't really need, never stopping to question why they were doing it. His decision to go to Walden was an attempt to cut away all that was superfluous and discover what was truly essential to a good life. As he wrote, "I went to the woods because I wanted to live deliberately, to face only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I died, discover that I had not lived." Those words, discovering I hadn't lived, are haunting. How many of us reach the end of our lives and realize we've been so busy surviving, working, accumulating, that we've forgotten to truly live? In Walden, Thoreau radically simplified his life. He grew his own food, built his own house for less than $30, and reduced his needs to a minimum. This wasn't asceticism for asceticism's sake, but an attempt to free up his time and energy for what truly mattered: observing nature, reading, writing, thinking, and simply being present. He discovered something many of us forget: that life can be surprisingly simple if we stop complicating it. Most of the things we work and worry about aren't actually necessary for a good life. They're social conventions, imposed expectations, desires created by advertising and social comparison. Thoreau wrote, "A man is rich in proportion to the number of things he can afford to do without." Think about it. We typically think of wealth as having more. Thoreau invites us to rethink that. True wealth, he suggests, is needing less. The fewer things you need to be happy, the freer you are. He also had a lot to say about speed. Why should we live in such haste and waste of life? We are determined to starve before we are hungry. This last sentence is particularly interesting. What does it mean? That we are always anticipating our needs, always planning for the future, always preparing for the next moment, that we never truly experience the present moment. We are so busy preparing to live that we forget to live. Thoreau's experience at Walden wasn't about becoming a hermit or permanently rejecting society. He eventually returned to his civilization, but he returned transformed, with a deeper understanding of what was essential and what was superfluous, what contributed to a meaningful life, and what was merely a distraction. His message remains relevant today, perhaps more than ever. Slow down, simplify, live deliberately, cut out the excess, focus on the essential, and above all, don't wait until the end of your life to realize you never really lived. Lao Tzu and the Way of Nature. Let's go back even further in time, to ancient China, where we find Lao Tzu and the teachings of Taoism. Taoism offers a fascinating perspective on why we should slow down our lives. In the Tao Te Ching, one of the foundational texts of Taoist thought, we read, "Nature is unhurried, yet everything is accomplished. Watch a tree grow. There's no rush, no visible urgency, but over time, the tiny seed grows into a majestic tree. Consider a river shaping a canyon, drop by drop, year after year, unhurried, but the result is magnificent. Nature when we try to force things, but its results are perfect. Natural processes. We often create more problems than solutions. This is the concept of Wu Wei, often translated as effortless action or non-action. It doesn't mean doing nothing, but not forcing things. It means working with the natural flow of life rather than against it. It means recognizing that there is a right time for everything, and that trying to rush things too quickly can be counterproductive. Think about trying to force a flower to open prematurely. You might succeed, but the flower will be damaged. Similarly, when we force our lives into an unnatural rhythm, when we're constantly in a rush, constantly under pressure, we're essentially doing violence to ourselves. Taoism teaches us that there is wisdom in patience, that there is power in gentleness, that there is effectiveness in non-resistance. A river doesn't try to force its way through rock. It simply flows around it. But eventually, given enough time, gentle water wears away even the hardest rock. This doesn't mean passivity or laziness. It means finding the natural rhythm of things and working in harmony with it. It means recognizing that not everything needs to be fast, that not everything needs to be efficient in the modern sense of the word, that sometimes the longest path is the wisest. In our modern lives, we're constantly trying to force things. We force our bodies to function when they're exhausted. We force solutions to problems that need time to resolve. We force relationships that need breathing room. We force decisions when wisdom would lie in waiting. Taoism invites us to slow down, not out of laziness, but out of wisdom, to recognize that there are seasons in life, natural rhythms that we must respect, that not everything can or should be rushed. Arthur Schopenhauer and the Unhappiness of Hurry. Now let's move to 19th century Germany, where we meet Arthur Schopenhauer, a philosopher known for his pessimism, but who had profound insights into the nature of human happiness. Schopenhauer believed that most human suffering was self-inflicted, the result of our insatiable desires and the constant rush to satisfy them. He wrote, "The most important thing for happiness is the avoidance of those voluntary evils which are unnecessary to our existence, and the chief cause of this is the hurry and bustle which mark our existence, the rapid alternation of excitement and boredom, and the constant stimulation which results from our complex social and economic arrangements." This is a remarkable observation. Schopenhauer is saying that most of our problems are not imposed on us by external circumstances, but are created by ourselves through our frenetic lifestyles. The hurry and bustle of modern life, the constant need for stimulation, the alternation between artificial excitement and profound boredom. All of this is avoidable, but we choose this path, he continues. For it is to them that we owe that feverish restlessness that throws us into the arms of the multiple illusions that we mistake for happiness. What illusions are these? Schopenhauer was referring to things like wealth, social status, fame, all the things our society tells us we should pursue, all the things for which we sacrifice our time and peace of mind. But these are illusions because, even when we achieve them, they don't bring us the lasting satisfaction we hoped for. Schopenhauer made an important distinction between two types of pleasure: pleasures of the will and pleasures of the intellect. The pleasures of the will are those that arise from the satisfaction of our basic desires and drives: hunger, thirst, sexual desire. These are necessary and of course, but they are also transient and ultimately unsatisfactory. As soon as one desire is satisfied, another arises. It's a never-ending cycle. The pleasures of the intellect, on the other hand, come from the contemplation of art, music, philosophy, and nature. These pleasures are more lasting and profound. They nourish the soul in a way that pleasures of the will never can. And here's the crux. The pleasures of the intellect cannot be rushed. You can't contemplate art or philosophy at breakneck speed. You can't rush the experience of listening to a symphony or watching a sunset. These pleasures require time, attention, and presence, the very things that a fast-paced life takes away. Schopenhauer encourages us to simplify our lives, not out of moralism, but out of pragmatism. The more complicated and hectic our lives, the more unhappy we will be. The more we pursue the illusions of wealth and status, the less time and energy we have for the genuine and lasting pleasures of contemplation and reflection. Marco Aurelio and the wisdom of the essential. Finally, we head to ancient Rome, where we meet Marcus Aurelius, emperor and Stoic philosopher. In his Meditations, a personal diary never intended for publication, he offers practical advice on how to live a more peaceful and focused life. He writes, "If you seek tranquility, do less, or more precisely, do what is essential, what the logos of a social being demands, and in the necessary way, which brings a double satisfaction, doing less, better." Marcus Aurelius was an emperor, one of the busiest and most powerful men of his time. If anyone had an excuse for a busy schedule, it was him. Yet even in this position, most of what we say and do is essential. Doing less, he continues. If you can eliminate it, you'll have more time and more peace of mind. Ask yourself every moment, is this necessary? This is a revolutionary practice. Imagine constantly asking this question, is this necessary? Not, is this interesting? Or, could this be useful someday? But, is this necessary? If we were to rigorously adopt this criterion, how many of the things we do daily would survive scrutiny? How many hours do we spend on activities that, upon honest analysis, aren't really necessary or even desirable? Marcus Aurelius isn't advocating inactivity. He's advocating intentionality. Choose carefully where you put your energy. Focus on the essential. And when you do something, do it well, with full attention, instead of dividing your attention between 1,000 different things. This is the essence of simple living from a Stoic perspective. Eliminating the superfluous so that we can focus on the essential with quality and presence. What all these philosophers have in common. Despite living in different times and places, these thinkers came to remarkably similar conclusions. 1. True happiness does not come from having more, but from wanting less. 2. Speed and haste are the enemies of the good life. 3. Simplicity is not deprivation, but liberation. 4. The deepest pleasures require time and attention. 5. Most of what we pursue is not really necessary for our happiness. Careful observation of human nature. These aren't just abstract ideas, and they're as relevant today, perhaps more relevant, than they were when they were written. the practical art of living simply. Now that we've explored the philosophical foundations of simple living, let's get practical. How can we actually implement these principles in our modern lives? It's important to recognize that there's no one-size-fits-all formula. Simple living isn't a rigid set of rules, but a set of principles that each person must adapt to their own circumstances. What works for one person may not work for another. The goal isn't to blindly follow a model, but to find what allows us to live more intentionally, presently, and contentedly. That said, there are some practices and principles that many people find helpful. Let's explore them. 1. Simplify your schedule. Our lives have become absurdly complicated. Look at your schedule in a typical week. How many commitments do you have? How many responsibilities? How many things do you should do? The first and perhaps most important practice of simple living is learning to say no. No to invitations that do not bring us genuine joy. No to the commitments we make just out of social obligation. No to projects that don't align with our values and priorities. No to perfectionism that makes us spend hours on things that don't make a real difference. This isn't selfishness. It's self-preservation. It's recognizing that our time and energy are finite, and that every yes to something is a no to something else. When we say yes to everything, we're not truly present to anything. Start by reviewing your regular commitments. Which ones truly add value to your life? Which ones do you do simply out of habit or social obligation? Be honest with yourself. So practice the art of pausing before making new commitments. When someone asks you for something, resist the urge to respond immediately. Say, and let me check my schedule and get back to you. This gives you time to really consider whether this is a commitment you want to make. Remember the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. Is this necessary? 2. Intentionally disconnect from technology. Technology is simultaneously one of the greatest blessings and one of the greatest burdens of modern life. It connects us, informs us, and entertains us, but it also fragments our attention, steals our time, and keeps us in a state of constant stimulation. Simple living doesn't require you to reject technology completely, although some people choose to do that. But it does require you to be intentional about how you use it. Some practical principles. Establish screen-free times. This could be first thing in the morning, meal times, or just before bed. During these times, no cell phones, computers, or TV. Turn off non-essential notifications. Do you really need to be notified every time someone likes your Instagram photo, or when there's a new offer at an online store? Practice a digital Sabbath, 1 day a week, or even half a day if a whole day seems like too much. Completely disconnected. Remove social media apps from your phone, or at least keep them in a secondary folder that requires effort to access. Use the screen time apps to monitor how much time you spend on different activities. The results can be shocking and motivating. The goal isn't to become a Luddite, but to regain control over your attention. Technology should serve you, not the other way around. 3. Cultivate mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being completely present in the present moment, aware of your thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment. This may sound simple, but it's surprisingly difficult. Our default is to always be partially somewhere else, thinking about the past, planning for the future, worrying about something that may or may not happen. Mindfulness can be cultivated through formal practices like meditation, but it can also be integrated into daily activities. Eat mindfully. Instead of eating while watching TV or working, take the time to truly savor your food. Notice the colors, aromas, and textures. Chew slowly. Notice how your body feels. Walk mindfully. Instead of walking on autopilot while your mind wanders, pay attention to the experience of walking. Feel your feet touching the ground. Notice the air on your skin. Listen to the sounds around you. Conscious conversation. When you're talking to someone, really listen. Don't plan what you're going to say next while the other person is talking. Don't look at your phone. Be present. Mindfulness transforms ordinary activities into enriching experiences. It allows us to derive more satisfaction from simple experiences, reducing our need to constantly seek new stimuli. 4. Simplify your physical environment. Our physical environments have a profound impact on our mental state. A cluttered space creates a cluttered mind. You don't have to become an extreme minimalist, but there is value in regularly going through your belongings and eliminating excess. The 90-90 rule. If you haven't used something in the last 90 days and don't plan to use it in the next 90, consider donating or selling it. One item in, one item out. When you buy something new, donate or discard something old in the same category. Box experiment. Put questionable items in a box. If you don't need them within 6 months, donate the box without even opening it. But simplifying your environment goes beyond just reducing physical clutter. It also means creating spaces that promote calm and presence. Create a technology-free space in your home where you can read, meditate, or simply sit. Use natural light whenever possible. Incorporate plants. These natural elements have been shown to reduce stress. Keep surfaces clean and clear. Leave room to breathe. 5. Connect with nature. There's something deeply restorative about spending time in nature. Studies show that even brief periods in natural settings reduce cortisol, the stress hormone, lower blood pressure, and improve mood. The Japanese tradition of forest bathing, Shinrin-yoku, offers an approach particularly aligned with the simple life. It's not about walking to get somewhere or exercising, but simply being present in the forest, absorbing the atmosphere through all your senses. Even if you live in a city, you can incorporate more nature into your life. Visit parks regularly. Grow plants at home or in a small garden. Sit outdoors whenever possible. Observe the sky, the trees, the birds. Nature reminds us that we are part of something greater, something that operates at a pace very different from the fast-paced human life. Trees are in no hurry. Rivers are not stressed. There is wisdom in this natural rhythm. 6. Rediscover boredom. It may seem strange, but the ability to tolerate and even enjoy boredom is an important skill. We've been conditioned to see boredom as something to be avoided at all costs. Got a few free minutes? We check our phones, waiting in line. We scroll through social media, alone with our thoughts. We turn on a podcast, but boredom isn't the enemy. In fact, it's often the prelude to creativity and deep reflection. It's in moments of apparent doing nothing that our minds can wander, make connections, and process experiences. Practice being comfortable with boredom. Wait without your phone. Sit idle for a few minutes. Let your mind wander. You might be surprised by what emerges. 7. Cook and eat slowly. Fast food isn't just a type of restaurant. It's a metaphor for how we approach food in modern life. We eat quickly, often on the go, barely noticing what we're consuming. Cooking your own food and eating slowly are powerful practices of simple living. Cooking connects you with the process of eating. Prepare them with your hands and transform them into something nutritious. It's meditative and satisfying. Eating slowly allows you to truly savor your food and recognize when you are full, which can prevent overeating. Eating meals without distractions, no TV, no phone, turns eating into a conscious and pleasurable act. Cooking and eating with others creates opportunities for genuine connection. Cultivate a few deep relationships. In an age of social media, where it's common to have hundreds or thousands of friends, the quality of relationships often suffers in favor of quantity. The simple life encourages us to prioritize depth over breadth in relationships. Invest time and energy in a few deep friendships instead of trying to maintain superficial connections with many people. Practice the art of genuine conversation, discussions that go beyond superficialities and truly explore ideas, emotions, and experiences. Be fully present when spending time with the people you love, not partially present while checking your phone. Accept that some friendships will naturally fade, and that's okay. It's better to have a few genuine connections than many obligatory ones. 9. Work with purpose, not just for money. For many of us, work consumes most of our waking hours. If you're going to spend so much time working, it makes sense to do something meaningful to you. This doesn't mean you need to have a world-changing job or follow your passion, concepts that can be problematic. But it does mean seeking work that aligns with your values, allows some degree of autonomy and growth, does not completely drain your life energy, leaves time and space for other important dimensions of life. Sometimes, living simply means being willing to earn less money in exchange for more time, more autonomy, and/or less stress. It's a trade-off our culture discourages, but one that can be profoundly liberating. 10. Practice gratitude. Gratitude is the perfect antidote to the chronic dissatisfaction that modern life cultivates. When we're constantly focused on what we don't have, what we want to achieve next, what others have that we don't, satisfaction is impossible. Gratitude anchors us in the present and in what we already have. Keep a gratitude journal. Every day, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big. A good cup of coffee, a ray of sunshine, a pleasant conversation. Express gratitude to others. Don't just think it, say it. Write thank you letters. Acknowledge the contributions of others in your life. When you catch yourself wishing for something, pause and mentally list the good things you already have in that area of your life. Gratitude is a practice, not a spontaneous feeling. The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes, and the more satisfied you feel with your life. Challenges and misconceptions about simple living. Before we conclude, it's important to address some common misconceptions and real challenges on the journey to a simpler life. Simple living isn't about technological regression. You don't have to become a hermit or reject all modern conveniences. It's about being intentional about what technologies you use and how. Simple living isn't the exclusive privilege of the wealthy. In fact, many of the practices we discussed, cooking at home, spending time in nature, cultivating deep relationships, are free or low cost. Of course, some aspects of simple living, like working less, are more accessible to those with financial resources, but the fundamental principles are universal. A simple life doesn't mean standing still. You can still have ambitions, goals, and work hard. The difference lies in doing so intentionally and sustainably, not in a constant state of urgency. Simple living isn't selfish. Some people criticize simple living as narcissistic or self-indulgent, but there's a strong argument that living more simply is actually more ethical. It consumes fewer resources, generates less waste, and makes us more present and available to others. The biggest challenge, perhaps, is social pressure. We live in a culture that values busyness, material success, and constant doing. When you choose to slow down, simplify, and focus on the essential, you may encounter resistance from family, friends, and colleagues. You may be seen as lazy, unambitious, or strange. It's important to remember that you're not choosing the simple life to impress others, but to live according to your own values and find genuine fulfillment. The opinions of others, while sometimes difficult to ignore, shouldn't dictate how you live your unique life. Conclusion: the invitation to slow down. We've reached the end of this exploration of the simple life, but hopefully the beginning of a personal journey for you. The central message can be summed up like this: in a culture that constantly pushes us to do more, have more, and be more, the choice to slow down, simplify, and be is an act of courage and wisdom. It requires constant intention. It requires swimming against the current of the dominant culture. It requires saying no when everyone around you is saying yes. It requires patience in a world that values speed, but the reward is immense. A life lived deliberately, with presence, with meaning. A life where you truly savor your experiences instead of just passing through them. A life where you know the tranquility of having enough, the peace of being present, the joy of simple things. Remember Thoreau's words: When you reach the end of your life, don't discover that you never really lived. Life is happening now, in this moment. Not in the future when you achieve that goal. Not after you buy that thing. Not when external circumstances finally align perfectly. And the only way to truly be present to your life is to slow down enough to notice it. So, this is my invitation to you. Give it a try. Choose 1 or 2 practices we've discussed and try them for a few weeks. See how you feel. Pay attention. Perhaps you'll discover, like countless others before you, that less really is more, that slower is richer, that simpler is deeper. The art of living simply isn't about deprivation. It's about liberation. Liberation from the endless race and from constant comparison, from chronic dissatisfaction. It's about rediscovering what really matters and living accordingly. The world will keep moving. Demands will keep arising. Distractions will keep appearing. But you can choose a different path. You can choose to slow down. You can choose to simplify. You can choose to be present. You can choose to actually live. The time is now. The choice is yours. Thanks for watching.